why you need to understand status if you're into fashion. See, I've been wondering about this for the longest time. People are always telling me about what brand is hot right now. What brands do you think are popping right now? And what brands do you not like? So I started thinking, why do people have these preconceived notions built in about brands and the behaviors of other people when it comes to the brands they adopt or the brands they shop at? Well, it's simply because fashion itself is a huge game of imitation and counter imitation used for us to signal and gain status. It's not exactly just our choice of what brands to buy or what pieces that we like or even the taste that we hold so dearly to our identity. It's a huge but logical system of social competition. You might think that this only exists in textbooks and only nerds talk about this type of stuff. But this is the truth. This is simply the truth. And no one wants to talk about it. They don't want to talk about the relationship between status and fashion precisely because they think that this is a low status act. I'm here talking to a camera, lowering my status in front of however many people watch this video, probably 5 or 10, and I'm telling you the truth about how fashion works. It's status. To introduce the relationship between fashion and status, we'll have to understand what signals and cues are. Signal is how you signal status. The most observable way for you to convey status through clothing, through conscious choices in order to make a status claim to other people. There are a couple ways for you to signal status. The first one is through possessions. The cars you own, the clothes you own, all the statement pieces that you have, watches, sneakers back in the day, and whatnot, in order for you to project to other people that you are of high status. The second way is through knowledge. What you know about a particular culture, what you know about brands and its history, and the strongest products that they make, things that are more of a cultural nature. Another way to signal status. The third way is through behavior. And behavior is a dichotomy of breaking the rules and staying within the confines and the guardrails assigned by your community. This may be social etiquettes and certain dress codes that you have to conform to when attending special occasions or going to expensive restaurants. That it's the signal that you understand the rules of the game that you're playing by going to an expensive restaurant, going to a job interview, going to someone's wedding, that you comply with the dress code. And on the other hand, you have cues. What cues are features that are harder for you to conceal. Features that are more involuntary and difficult to hide to other people. This is the outward manifestation of who you are and how you act, how you talk, how you interact with other people. And what this does is it discloses your upbringing, the communities that you're a part of, and your affiliation with different membership groups within society. And these are the things that are harder to fake compared to signals. So these are things that make you who you are. So with a firm understanding of what status and cues are, we're able to assess the social status of other people. And other people will also use these criteria to assess our status. So by combining signals and cues, we add one and one together, and that equals your relative social standing. And as humans, we are on a constant pursuit to understand where we sit in the social hierarchy and how our relative social ranking compares to other people so we can better gauge how to interact and behave. So, the ultimate question that we are asking other people and what other people are asking ourselves is, are you the full package? And can you live up to what's advertised? Can your cues live up to your signals? Let me give you an example. If you are someone who spends a lot of money in acquiring expensive items, rare items to signal status, you engage in a lot of conspicuous consumption in front of other people might think that you are really rich, and you might in reality be very rich. You have a lot of economic capital. But when they interact with you, they'll be able to get a better understanding of where this person, but when they interact with this person, they'll get a better understanding of who this person is through the cues. And oftentimes, as it's quite common among people who are new money, they acquired wealth over a short period of time. The cultural capital portion hasn't caught up yet. So it's the cues that betray them when it comes to this assessment of their relative social rank. They try to signal through material wealth, but in the end, the cues betray them. And that's exactly the reason behind why people are so sensitive to others wearing fake products, counterfeit products, and when people commit fashion fraud. And the reason behind this is false advertising. You are displaying way higher value than what you can offer or how much value you have as of right now. And that's what's so infuriating about people, about other people. You're practically trying to fool their status detection system. So what fashion is a signaling system, not just a choice of what clothes we wear. What we are trying to do through fashion and through dressing a certain way is to make a status claim to other people. To make a status claim to other people through signals. What fashion pieces or what you buy show about you is the groups that you want to participate in or the groups that you're actively participating in. And they're also able to infer partly your perceived social importance through the clothes that you wear. One funny thing about signaling is that no matter how much effort that people put into fashion, understanding the history, the brands, the pieces, construction, craftsmanship, people always try to play it off cool, to show that they're effortless. Because being effortless, trying to play it off like it's natural, it's a high status act. It's not something that seems like the fruits of their rehearsing and practice. But in order for us to understand how fashion is used as a vehicle to differentiate the status of one group from another, we'll have to understand the dynamic of imitation. The dynamic of imitation versus counter imitation. And you can also understand it as a perpetual race between chasing and fleeing. So to chase is for one to imitate the elites when it comes to social standing. Their consumption choices, the brands they buy, the brands they speak highly of. To chase is to imitate. And oftentimes, this is what the public does in order to increase their perceived status. How do elites keep their level of status? Through signaling when it comes to fashion. They then employ this technique called fleeing, which is whenever they sense that the public is catching on to what they are buying and what they're consuming, they view this as a threat to their exclusivity, because exclusivity awards you a lot of status points, because you don't want to be the same as everyone else on the street. If you're an elite, you need to do things that is kept within a circle of exclusivity. And if you were to reference the diffusion of innovation idea that Everett Rogers came up with, whenever the early majority adopts trends that the elite or within the model innovators and early adopters are into, then the elites, early adopters, and the innovators will shift their focus to another type of trend and adopt another type of product or buy into another brand in order to signal their difference in status and consumption behaviors. This is also the phenomenon seen when big luxury brands or mainstream brands tried to add in a lot of goth and punk aesthetics into the products that they're releasing. And what this triggered is a huge flea reaction in the original punk and goth community. And what they did is exactly what the elites within a social hierarchy or status hierarchy would do. They pushed their aesthetic to an entire new level that the mainstream and these big luxury houses are not able to comfortably imitate and sell. And through that, they're able to better signal that they are different to the rest of society. And they're able to protect their high status within that hierarchy. And that's another example of the chase and flight strategies that people use in fashion in order to protect status and to further differentiate themselves from other people. Just like a lot of things in life, fashion is also just another way for one class of human beings, one in-group, to signal their differences to the out-group. So now that we've touched upon this imitation and counter-imitation mechanism, we're able to extrapolate and move further into the idea of how status defines what we find cool and beautiful. What status is essentially a dictator of cultural gravity, where culture flows next, what determines the next trend that pops up. And it shifts the things that we value and the aesthetics that we prefer. Through the lens of status, we're able to understand that taste in itself is not unique or down to the individual entirely. It's oftentimes very much influenced by status, which is the hidden driver. And this also has to do with the value, the status value of the goods that we deem high value. We tend to equate high-priced items, expensive items, as items with better quality. If it's expensive, then it means that the signaling cost is very high. So the signaling cost of you buying a $10,000 bag is quite high. And that's why it has higher value. Especially if it's something that's really hard to get. There's only 20 in the world. Then all the better when it comes to adding status points for you. People of different classes also assign value in different ways when it comes to consumption. When it comes to new money, they tend to go for really big logo items that are expensive, what's flashy, and they engage in a lot of conspicuous consumption in order to prove that they've arrived the top of society. It's an expensive signaling act to the rest And it's also used as a strategy of differentiation. The emphasis here is on economic capital. For old money, those who've had wealth for a very long time, there's this thing called patina, which is the visual evidence of age in one's possession. That it's been worn, it's been used for a long period of time. But at the same time, patina is related to goods that are still very, very expensive, don't get me wrong. Something that they've passed on from one generation to another. It's worn in, used to construct a style that is casual, it's unstudied, and it's effortless. All this is for this particular class of people to say that new money, you just got here. Well, I've been here the entire time. I've been here for 100 years. You just got here. So what they're doing is they're using this worn in, modest, but still very, very expensive goods as a way to signal their difference with other people in society. And the emphasis for old money is cultural capital. A huge reason behind why people like thrifting so much, especially people who have a lot of cultural capital in fashion, they engage in thrifting because they are imitating the behavior of old money. And they are taking in the consumption preferences and consumption choices of the old money class as their own in order to signal their status and knowledge to other people. Everything is connected in this game of imitation and counter imitation and signaling. And this might be very different from your current understanding of fashion and how you buy things. But once you hear about this a couple of times, and once you apply it to your daily conversations with people who are also somewhat interested in fashion, you'll be able to tell how are they trying to signal status. What you can also do is to actively evaluate whether their cues match up to their signals. I do believe that it is imperative for me to share this with the rest of the world. This way of looking at fashion and how status can help us see the world through a different lens.